Hello everyone and welcome to a Giant Slayer LoR deck tech video. This is a series where we're going to take a look at some of the most powerful decks in Legends of Runeterra, break them down, and show you how they work. This week we're looking at Ezreal Twisted Fate, currently one of the most popular variants of Ezreal. This archetype can apply solid mid-game pressure with its units, has a wide range of removal effects, and great late-game finishers between Riptide Rex and Ezreal combos. But before we begin, please take a second to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon to stay up to date with all of the Legends of Runeterra content that we're doing. Check out the links in our description for our social media pages. We've got a lot of folks working behind the scenes to keep the content flowing and to allow for our weekly LoR tournaments. Alright, back to Ezreal Twisted Fate. Today's list is one that was piloted by GiantSlayerTV, who got second place in our 4th week of Fight Night Legends. This archetype has been a part of the format since the release of Rising Tides, so what is it about these champions that work so well together? Well, both champions have similar goals in mind. They want to be in a deck that's going to be drawing a lot of cards. They're also both strong tempo champions that will accrue scary value if not removed quickly. While Ezreal and Twisted Fate are both frail, they can be tricky to remove since they both tax the same type of removal. Twisted Fate is often considered a support champion. He gives you a choice between blue, red, and gold card, one of which should always find a use in nearly every single board state. Alongside of a powder keg, Twisted Fate's red card and gold card become especially brutal. Keep in mind that red and gold cards do not trigger Ezreal's level up. While it is possible to level up Twisted Fate in this deck since it has solid draw and nab effects, understand that it's not the deck's common win condition. Ezreal, on the other hand, is the deck's primary win condition. There are multiple cards in the deck that can get more than one Ezreal trigger in a single card. This lets you quickly get Ezreal online while you fight for the board. Unlike some other Ezreal decks, this one doesn't look to set up a high burst damage kill with Ezreal. Instead, it wants to get chip damage in with its followers so that the late game Ezreal can come down and close out the remaining points of damage quickly. It's not impossible to set up 10 or more damage finishes with this Ezreal deck, it's just not nearly as common as other Ezreal decks such as Karma Ezreal. One of the first things you may notice about this build is that it includes an entire playset of the nab cards. That includes Black Market Merchant, Pilfered Goods, and Yordle Grifter. This allows the deck to fight for the board while stealing cards from your enemy's deck. Card advantage is not the only reason to be playing the nab package in this deck. Pilfered Goods and the Warning Shot created from Yordle Grifters are both burst speed spells for your late game Ezreal turns. Jagged Butcher, Dreadway Deckhand, and Petty Officer make up the deck's early game unit package. Jagged Butcher is an early game efficient unit that can be played as a 2-2, or with some setup, it can be a 3-3. For 1 mana, Jagged Butcher will often do more than what you paid for. Dreadway Deckhand creates a powder keg when you play it, which will be double the effectiveness as such cards as Make It Rain or Twisted Fate's red card. The very existence of a powder keg on board may force your opponent to play differently, so they're very powerful tools. Just make sure you have a way to activate your powder keg before putting it into play. Petty Officer will allow you to choose between a powder keg and a 1-cost follower. The 1-cost follower can help stall out the board, or it may actually get you value with a card like Magekeeper Conservator. You'll have to use your judgment when choosing between the keg and the follower. This build of Twisted Fate Ezreal opts to play 3 copies of Warning Shot. The reason for this is that so it can easily activate plunder effects. Being able to always have access to a Warning Shot is crucial for cards like Riptide Rex. Riptide Rex alongside of Warning Shot lets you trigger plunder without giving your opponent a moment of priority before the Riptide Rex can wipe the board. The amount of board control and face damage that Riptide Rex can provide is absolutely overwhelming. Outside of Riptide's sheer power, his cannon barrages also count as an Ezreal target individually, making it a valuable tool for burst leveling up Ezreal. Thermogenic Beam is an incredibly flexible spot removal spell that can be tailored to its target. While most versions of Twisted Fate Ezreal play 3, GiantSlayerTV opted for only 2 to make room for extra copies of Warning Shot and Pilfered Goods. 3 copies of Mystic Shot let the deck cheaply remove threats from the board. Mystic Shot becomes part of your endgame win condition, which, when combined with Ezreal and other spells, can pump out a ton of damage very quickly. One of the most interesting inclusions in the build of Ezreal Twisted Fate is 2 copies of Riptide. It is certainly an uncommon choice for the archetype, but a strong one, being able to stall out the board of enemy attacks, or making it so that your own attack is more threatening. Between nabbing cards from the enemy deck and playing 6 copies of Warning Shot, the deck may find itself with junk in its hand when it needs more gas. 2 copies of Rummage round out the deck, being the extra grease for the deck, letting it cycle through itself to find its powerful cards. Now that we understand the deck list and the purpose of its cards, let's talk about the Mulligan. Jagged Butcher and Petty Officer are both solid units to keep for your curve. Black Market Merchant can be worth keeping as well, but only if you have a turn 2 attack lined up or a warning shot to go along with it. Thermogenic Beam will always find a use, so keep that one too. If your opponent has dangerous 2 health units, consider keeping Mystic Shot. In a matchup with a lot of 1 health units, consider Make It Rain or Twisted Fate. Twisted Fate can also be kept against slow decks since the 2/2 body demands an answer and blue card lets him replace himself. Now that we understand the deck build and the Mulligan choices, what will an average game of Ezreal Twisted Fate actually look like? Well, in the early turns, the Ezreal player will likely find themselves keeping up with the enemy board thanks to a strong early curve. Look to trade off units with the enemies while picking off their weak ones with spells. From turns 3 to 5 is when Ezreal is most likely to get an opportunity for a strong powder keg alongside an AoE spell. Ezreal will still be very far away from leveling, so your focus should not be to fall too far behind on the board. Turn 6 to 7 may be when you find yourself struggling to keep a hold onto the board. At this point, your units may get outclassed, or your spell suite may be too small to deal with some later game units. Ezreal should be getting closer to leveling up, and the Riptide Rex turn is very soon. Keep yourself as healthy as possible while trying to set up a hand where either Riptide Rex or Ezreal can take over the game. During the last few turns of the game, your goal is to figure out how to cobble together the remaining points of your enemy's health. At this point, your hand may be running thin. When you play Ezreal onto the board, make sure you have enough mana to cast the spells in your hand alongside of him. In close games, every single point of damage counts. It would be a shame to lose because you didn't wait for the right time to play Ezreal. So you've got this sweet 40 card list, but you might be wondering some other cards that you could slot in. Static Shock is great for proccing Ezreal as well as keeping your hand size up. Gotcha can be used as a reliable deal 3 that can occasionally buy you tempo. If you're looking for some hand refill, Progress Day or Salvage can also be a help there. And that's going to be it for Ezreal Twisted Fate. It is the perfect deck for the type of player who wants to play for the board, but also wants the security of a late game combo finisher. Have you played the deck yet? Which Twisted Fate card is your favorite to pick? Let us know in the comments section below. Thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed our content, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe for future Giant Slayer LOR videos.